Well, you found us, and you found us intentionally because in the podcast of the YouTube world, you made the effort to click, to listen, to watch, and we hope you don't regret it. This is 13 Pieces of Bubblegum. Our main focal point, our heartbeat of this show is longtime manager Clint Hurdle, and this is his podcast. John Walsh, Susan Walsh, Darren Sutton, we're honored to assist him, and if you found us for the first time, we do look at baseball history. We don't want to call it your dad or your granddad's or your mom's podcast, but we don't get stuck in the past, certainly. And on this podcast, it's not just the sport of baseball as our lone diamond sport. We're very much open to all diamond sports here. We're going to focus a little bit, and Susan's going to help us do that. I'm going to help us do that just a little bit on the sport of softball, certainly. And then also we look at the future because really if you're tied to perfect game in any way, shape, or form, like Clint or I or John or Susan, or if you're a parent of an athlete, this podcast is for you too. And with that in mind, we're going to talk with a young man whose mind is excellent. His glove and his legs may be even better, but boy, that mind is excellent. One of the top middle infielders in the country. He's going to Duke. He may be going to pro ball. His life's going to change forever. Cole Young is going to join us on the show. Perfect game All-American. So I'm excited to connect with Cole Young on this show. I've had a chance to do it, but my connections don't go anywhere close to the connections of Clint Hurdle. And so I think it's safe to say that Clint, his organization as a younger manager, one of the reasons Cole Young's a player. And I don't think that's a stretch there. I mean, I'm really excited. I'm really excited for this show. It's good stuff. Clint, Cole Young, kind of cool, right? I mean, a little preview to the preview.
It's one of the things that sport continues to give us. You can't make this story up. I first met Cole Young. It was around 2015, 2014. He had just won a championship. And he was one of the kids they brought down on the field, and then he's in the dugout. And I think I did everything but put him in my lap. He was that size at the time. He was just a little bit bigger, but it was just so cool to see a kid from Pittsburgh had some accomplishments, had some success, who loves the Pirates. Could not believe he was on the field at PNC, then could not believe he was in the dugout. We clicked. We stayed in somewhat of contact because I would see him. I actually spoke at his father's company's presentation as a keynote one time. And then we continued to connect through Perfect Game. And we stayed in touch with Joanne. We all see Cole, at all the different events. And there's a good chance if you see Cole, you see Joanne. The sacrifices that the parents have made, but the quality of the son, and this is one of the kids I can truly say I know. This is a good kid. It just happens to be a really talented baseball player, but I love the good kid part of it. I love the yinzer in him, growing up loving his Buccos, and now he's embarking on some pretty hallowed ground, as you had said. This is a first-round draft pick kid. There's that's not a stretch. And the other opportunity is Duke. So he's done well in making good choices along the way. There's been good guidance from his mom and dad. There's been good guidance from the posse that plays an important part in his life. Because when you do things well and you push yourself academically and athletically, you get to make choices. The quality of the choices he gets to make now, there's no losing. It's go to Duke or it's to go pro ball. I mean, those are pretty exclusive choices, but there's been a ton of sacrifice, a ton of hard work along the way. So I'm excited as everybody else to get to chat with Cole.
That's a perfect preview right there just to hang. I mean, that's exactly it. You got a manager of the Pirates. You got a young kid who's done things, gets invited to the field. More inspiration from meeting Clint and the team down there. And now he may be a pro. He may be playing against the Pirates sometime very, very soon. It's going to be intriguing. John, this is episode number 8, and if you've ever listened to our shows, we tie in a favorite number 8. There's officially become really no rules on this. I mean, you can pick any sport you want, but for our senior executive producer team of John and Susan, you guys are up first with your contributions in that number 8.
Yeah, it's a great episode. It's a Hall of Fame episode. I've got a couple in mind. I know we're not supposed to do. I got number 1, Captain Carl Yastrzemski. Watch this guy. He came to my college graduation. I think I scared him because I started yelling, Captain Carl. Captain Carl. He looked up at me like, boy, that kid's going out in the real world. And then you got to go with Pop Stargell, man. We are family. I got all my sisters and me. This was an epic team. 39 years old. There's some numbers we can look at later. And, of course, I break up when we just had Memorial Day. Yogi Berra. And I know Susan has a number in mind, too.
Well, I got kind of. This was a good one for me. I mean, there's so many great number 8s. I struggled with a few of our previous numbers. I thought about Cal Ripken for a while, but thought that was low-hanging fruit and one of you guys might grab him. So I said, John, I've got my number 8. I'm going Bo Jackson. And John goes, Bo Jackson wasn't number 8. I'm like, yes, he was. No, he wasn't. So we went through this whole thing. Bo Jackson was number 8 when Bo knows, and he was with the White Sox. So I had to pull this out to show John.
Yeah, and then I had to drop the mic on an authentic Bo Jackson Royals jersey that I had, and it still fits.
No, it doesn't.
You see the Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson wore 34 with the Raiders, and that was his number.
God.
But anyways.
Number 34 is reserved for several other players.
Sure, we got him back here somewhere.
Yeah, so I'm going
Maybe we'll
Bo
get
Jackson.
there.
We can only hope.
Clint, their basement, Clint. It's just what the heck's in that basement, man? It's like going down with the white gloves with Josh Rawitch at the Hall of Fame. It's ridiculous.
I look at it that way. I say it's cluttered. I just say it's cluttered. And Susan,
trampolines, hockey rinks. Yes,
Susan, a piece of advice.
Dumpster.
I'm glad I'm not sitting near John. If he gets up one more time, you might want to put safety goggles on because those buttons are about to blow off that jersey. It might put somebody's eye out. You're going to shoot somebody's eye out.
Not the lower, Clint. This is not. It's just the upper, pal.
I got him, Clint. I got him. I'll take care of him.
All right. Well, yeah, this was an elite group of 8s, no doubt. And I have kind of just wandered through all of them, all the ones you brought up. And it was kind of funny that when I got the final copy of our draft yesterday from John, I did get a heartbeat moment because I had thought of him, but when the picture resonated, to see the Kid Carter, number 8, Kid was a teammate of mine in New York. So I'm on 8. Yeah, all the other ones, I definitely high-five you, celebrate with you. But for me right now, that number 8, spent time with him in uniform, spent time with him out of uniform. No Sandy, no the kids. We were separated by about a 45-minute drive in Palm City, Florida, and West Palm Beach because the Kid was special. And, we played on a team together that people will tell you when certain guys talk about themselves in the third person, just be careful. But not only did the Kid talk about the Kid, but Hernandez would talk about himself as the Mex. So we had 2 premier talented players that would tell stories about a third-person guy, and it was them. And the Kid could flat out play. The Kid could catch. He could play. He'd get some rap from different people. Oh, he was all self-absorbed, this and that. This guy, number one, the faith particle was huge in his life. He lived it. He exhibited it. He honored it. His wife, Sandy, is a pillar of strength. Wonderful kids. But he was a good teammate. People don't know. He was a good teammate. He may have gave a little high target every now and then. He was almost like Yogi Berra catching sometimes. His glove would work its way a little bit. But he gave you everything he got. He wanted to play every day. He was always a menace in the box. Just one of my favorite guys because he had the heart of an 8-year-old his entire career playing. So I'm stuck on the Kid, and that's my way of remembering him. I was at the funeral with so many other wonderful friends he had made over his lifetime in West Palm Beach, and it truly was a celebration of life. And there's so many things I can think back that he made me laugh. We smiled. Just a really cool guy. That's my 8.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Mine certainly lacks that depth and impact, but a lot of times mine takes me back. You guys know this on this podcast to the impact of my youth. And, a lot of people don't think of this guy. I'll make John happy because he was a Red Sox, an impactful Red Sox for many years. But when Reggie Smith played for the Dodgers, he wore number 8. And you go to your youth, right? You remember, why do I love the game? Why do I think about it? And it was him. That was Reggie Smith. That was Smith in the 70s. That was my father's teammate. And, for who he was, he had 100 walks in 77 before we were counting walks and they mattered. He had a .427 on base. He struck out only 76 times, hit 32 homers. He had a really, really sneaky good career, did Reggie Smith. 300-plus home runs, almost 400 doubles. A near .375 on base in his career, 7 times an All-Star Gold Glove. But where I go for Reggie Smith is, yes, that was me, the young guy that remembered Reggie Smith. But over the last couple of years, I've been able to go to Vero Beach, Florida, and be a part of the Breakthrough Series, where you see the talented future of the game put on by Major League Baseball and young African Americans, trying to grow the game in that area. And Reggie's still, man, walking in that room, giving time to those kids every single year. He's the man. I mean, he's a presence. Clinton, you know it. He's a presence still. His health is still good. So my number 8 is Reggie Smith. Did some damage. He did some damage with the bat in his hands. Kind of gets lost in that mix of Dodgers in the 70s. Maybe even that mix of Red Sox in the late 60s, early 70s. But boy, what a great supporting actor if you're going to go that way he was. Number 8, Dodgers, Reggie Smith. So that's my 8. And John, I got a Red Sox in there for you.
No, good. Every one of these 8s, there's a term in baseball that scouts use. You hear it in coaching rooms. I'm sure you hear it in front offices. They'll say a player, he's got it. He's got it. IT. He's got it. Every one of these 8s we talked about today had it, has it. And it's presence. Again, you mentioned, walk in the room, there could be 50 people, but you see Reggie Smith. You see you see Kai Yastrzemski. I was fortunate enough my rookie year to play against Kai Yastrzemski. It was his last season. It was 1978, I believe. And that's just so cool for me to know that I was on the same field playing in Fenway Park. I called my dad after the game. I said, this is crazy. I said, I'm playing on the same field as Carl Yastrzemski. I mean, I used to be in the backyard with a wiffle ball bat, emulate, the stance. Really, really cool. And Ripken Jr., I think we talked about this at one time, but to this day, my favorite moment was when he broke the streak, walking around the stadium, shaking the hands. I got tears dripping down my face in the living room. Carla comes and goes, what happened? What's wrong? Are you okay? I said, honey, I just need a moment. This is just one of the things you'll never see again. Nobody will ever see this again. And I get to be a part of, and I played against him, and it's special. So all these 8s are special. And Pops, living in Pittsburgh, being a Pirate, I mean, they still talk about his impact and his influence on that ball club. Not just performance on the field. This guy impacted lives and influenced people daily.
What do you got, John?
I was just going to say, when you come over the Roberto Clemente Bridge, as I like to do, I'm going to be in Pittsburgh in a couple of weeks. It's one of my favorite cities because you can walk to the ballpark, and the first thing you see is Pop Stargell and that larger-than-life statue. And then I think they made it for Clint for a reason, because I'm assuming he was larger than life when he played the game of baseball. I mean, what did he play? 39. How about at the age of 39? 32 home runs, won the World Series, and won the MVP at age 39. That's like David Ortiz, career numbers, end of the career.
Epic. Damage. I mean, he did damage, but like you say, larger than life. So, Clint Hurdle, what's on your mind?
My mind is, remember that board game? Well, not many people remember here, but it was called Mousetrap. Everybody liked to play Life or Monopoly. I was a big Mousetrap fan back in the day. You got to build it. You got to make it all happen. My mind is not a steel trap by any means. It's a mousetrap. And there's so much going on, and in no order of importance. But the fantasy football slap. My former player, Gabe Kapler, taking a stand, as Gabe has done time and time again, for what he believes in. In our notes, Cody Clemens getting called up, Roger's son, getting called up to the big leagues. There's so many father-son duos going on right now, and I've been fortunate to have a few of them. Back in the day, I had a few of them. Randy Hudley, Todd Hundley was the first one I ever had. And I was fortunate I could not have had a better father for a son that I coached to be in tow, that wasn't manipulative, that wasn't leveraging, that wasn't in the ear or pushy or all that. Randy's just a really good man. The holidays now, Matt and Jackson. How many of these perfect? I mean, we know it every year, Darren, but these perfect game kids, there's going to be so many number ones this year. It's kind of nuts. But to remember Jackson swinging the bat at 3 years old in the clubhouse, and we had Matt on, and we've done this story, but just to go through that again. And then here's the one just to finish up with, because I'm tired of hearing myself talk. All April, nobody can hit. All June, everybody can hit. Now, and then Brendan Rodgers with the Rockies, perfect example. Couldn't hit all April. Hits 3 home runs the other day. His average is up close to 270. He's driven in 20. The game's nuts. Anybody that says they're an expert, I laugh. And I put this in one of our notes on one of the things. Expert to me, still to this day, I was taught by a teacher of mine when people say they're experts. What did X mean in math class 50 years ago? What did X mean? It was an unknown quantity, right? X in math class. X was an unknown quantity. What is a spurt? It's when your garden hose breaks and you get a spurt. So there you go, expert. These people that say they're experts in baseball, I just laugh. I find it interesting because really, who's an expert in baseball? Who? I'm not. You know, you can ask me something today. I'll tell you what I think in 2 weeks from now. I'll be so wrong. It's crazy. But it makes good narrative. It gives a lot of conversational topics. That's why I don't get mad about it when people don't agree with me or I don't agree with other people. I think that's one of the traps we're falling into is people get angry. You know, I still believe it's more important to be kind than to be right. I think it's great to share thoughts. I think it's great to share opinions. The fantasy football slap at the end of the day, are you kidding me? You know, that's just my opinion. Are you kidding me?
Yep.
This is what we're doing. This is what we going on. And then we're going to drag Trout into it. And I thought he handled it very professionally. I mean, as a manager, you always want to eliminate distractions on your team. And in today's world, it's probably never more challenging than it ever has been for a manager to try and manage not expectations of your team, but the distractions that can happen around your team.
Hey, Clint, a couple of things I want to go for two here on this. First of all, thank you for mentioning the home run rate. We kind of talked about it. 17.5% increase the month of May. I don't even think that includes the last weekend. 1.1 home run rate per 9 innings. So, yeah, obviously weather dependent. But I wanted to ask you about those distractions because, you know, you were a manager for a long time. Is it because guys are spending so much time in the clubhouse? You know, you hear about players, you know, having like 3 or 4 meals a day. I don't know if we lost Clint or not, but
I'm still here.
How difficult is it, you know, back in the day? It's just amazing to me. Like when you were a player, did you get to the ballpark at noon for a 7 o'clock game? And I'm not saying that's the wrong thing to do, but it seems like the players are online a lot more, like our younger generation, and there's got to be more distractions. And I'm just wondering how you handled that through the years.
It's a great question. It's a good topic because it's societal as much as it is anything else. Kids today, my 2 teenagers, have more opportunity for distractions than I ever had. There's more opportunities for them getting into non-safe spaces on social media than I ever had. Basically, life was simpler when I was a kid. You know, I rode my bike. In the summer, I would leave at 9 with a box lunch or a brown bag lunch, and we'd go to the ball field. We'd play till it was dinner time and come home. That was our summer day for a lot of them. These players, yes, there's more distractions. Yes, they're involved in more. I don't think it's all their fault. It's out there. It's available. And the time on the field has changed because we used to spend more time on the field. And then whether it was scientifically proven or it's just a lot of experts coming up with, we need, you know, recovery's become a big part of the game. And that is real. But we never talked about recovery when I was a player. You prepared, you played, and then you reviewed the play. That was how you did it. Now there's, you know, you prepare. You execute, you review, and then you recover. And there's all different systems brought up. Do they spend more time in the clubhouse? Yeah, probably spending more time in the clubhouse. Do they have social media options? Yes, because I don't think you're going to say once you come in the clubhouse, there's no Wi-Fi. You know, there's no. You got to turn everything off. That's not going to work. That's not going to be what they want to hear as well. We're living in different times. I do think at the end of the day, whatever's going on, it all comes down to communication and relationships that you build within that clubhouse. You build them with your staff. Your staff comes down, spends some time in that clubhouse. That's the player's space. I've always believed that. Players don't want a bunch of coaches in there. They don't want the manager in there all the time. You know, that's where they're spending the majority of their time. Give them an opportunity to build a safe space. You create the safe space for them. You build them, then let them enjoy it. Let them embrace it. When you can build a relationship that's give and take and you understand, they're going to want to get on the field and work. They're going to want to do different things. Some of them aren't going to want to sit on their phone in front of their locker all day and play games or look for thumbs up, look for likes, or get involved in the fantasy football world. I mean, it's a real thing. I can remember every September, one of the challenges we had was football season coming. And it was real. But we'd manage it to the best of our abilities. And I've said this before, you know, player-centric, I believe in it. It's been going on for years. John Wooden was player-centric. This is not a new thing. The verbiage we're using, the narrative we're using has been refreshed. I was fortunate that for so many years, I really believe that I was able to put out a form of leadership with my coaches and my front office that was real, that was player-centric, and players felt like cared. No matter what you do, sometimes you can make a lot of right decisions and things go wrong. I'm not blaming anybody. I take the blame or responsibility. I told you this before. I've managed 17 years, and there was a 3-month period of my last year in Pittsburgh. It was the hardest managing I ever had to do with distractions, clubhouse disorder, things of this nature. And what I took away from that at the end of the day, whose fault was it? Well, it was my responsibility, so it's my fault. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. Sometimes players act out. And all you can do as a manager is try and show them what right looks like when everything else is going wrong. And that's what I tried to do through the 3 months of turmoil we had. We had player fights. We had a coach player fight. We had a player go to prison. It was absolutely nuts. And that was something for 16 and a half years that I thought we had a pretty good handle on in both places I was the quality of the clubhouse, the environment of the clubhouse, building culture. It didn't work then, and it looks crappy from the outside. The optics are horrible. Sometimes, though, bad things happen, and you just got to show people what right looks like when everything else is going on wrong. This distraction thing's real in baseball now. There's so much social media opportunities out there. Everybody gets a vote. Everybody gets to share a thought or opinion or get on a soapbox. So it's not easy, but hey, good paying jobs have come with problems. And that's one of the things about being a manager. You're in elite air. A general manager is in elite air. There's people within the working industry that are in elite air. With elite air comes people. People are messy. You're going to have problems. And that's just how you can manage those people, how you can manage those situations. At the end of the day, people say it. Do you believe it? You got to love on people. And it's hard to love on people sometimes because some people don't want to be loved on. But love is real. And when they know you care about them and they know you can make them better, they'll trust you. And that's where the heart of the relationship comes from.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, the divisiveness that comes along with what you're talking about, that's amazing, too, the struggles. I love hearing you say, by the way, it was my responsibility. I think a lot of times there are leaders that won't say that, unfortunately. The good ones do because they're human and they're a little bit youthful in their way. The older player who's more mature is viewed as square sometimes by his other teammates that are more fun-loving, and it doesn't always seem fair. I'm going for 2 on 2 different things. I'm going to go for 2 on the fact of what Clint talked about earlier, just to celebrate the future of the game with the upcoming draft. Jackson Holliday, as you mentioned, is going to be a first-round pick, in all likelihood not going to college. This has been the fastest riser in all of amateur baseball. He has been the fastest riser, and it's a testimony to his commitment to the guidance of his father. But the other co-fastest riser, for my money, and I don't think I'm too far off, is Justin Crawford, Carl Crawford's son. And he has come from out of nowhere. He's going to be a first-round pick. And then there's obviously Drew Jones. Andrew Jones, his son, is going to be a first-round pick, maybe 1, 2, or 3 overall. So those 3 heading into the draft, all sons of major leaguers. And look out for Ethan Holiday, who is 7th ranked in the 2025 class, playing himself into maybe a first overall pick as well. So I'm going for 2 on that one. And then the other way I'm going for 2 real quickly is I really think it's important to understand that I think the ridiculous fantasy football it's laughable. These are grown men. It made all of us laugh. I mean, it's silly. Like it's kind of inexcusable. But I also think we're in their business more than we've ever been. I had a dad who had a clubhouse fight. And obviously it was known. You and I, John, travel on planes. Clint was the leader when we travel on planes. There were disagreements on planes. We've seen them. And it was private. And we never talked about it. And we weren't to talk about it. So I think we're big time in their business. Maybe a little bit too much. Not in this case, though. That was embarrassing. But I also think we're in their business. That's technology. That's life. So speaking of business, by the way, when we come back, we're going to get into the business of Fabio Peralta, this talented young man, one of the top players in the United States in the 2024 class. But when we say the word United States, we don't throw it around loosely as it pertains to Peralta. He moved from Cuba when he was 8, all sorts of sacrifices from his mom and dad, and my goodness, is he gifted. Our conversation with the young man, a gifted 2024 in a minute, 13 pieces. of bubblegum. 13 Pieces of Bubblegum is our show, and 13 pieces as we welcome you back, pulling the room back to order. I'm hoping we started record early, and I'm hoping we're dropping a lot of that stuff into the episode at some point. I think they call that bonus material if you buy the DVD, so hopefully we'll drop some of this conversation with Fabio in. But Fabio Peralta, here's who he is. He's a young man. He's based in South Florida. He's a Miami commit. He's a 2024 grad. He's number 10 player overall in the United States. He can hit, he can fly, but he didn't come about things easily. His family moved from Cuba at 8. His passionate family, he made sacrifices being away from loved ones to come to the United States. That's kind of the background. That's just the beginning. He's going to help us do the rest. Dude, thanks for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for giving me this opportunity as well.
What do you remember about Cuba, man? What do you remember about being a young man, whether it be baseball or life or friends or school? Give me one. Let's warm us up with one good Cuba memory.
So one thing like I always remember was like first place I ever lived in Cuba let's say you could say it's kind of like a condominium, right? But it was just like one long hallway and then just a bunch of apartments right next to each other. So I would just be there. My mom would not let me go downstairs at all. Like I was too young, and I would play with my neighbor, which I now call him cousin, and my other neighbor. Play in this long hallway, play with just toys, you know. We used to actually play with, broomsticks and the little top of let's see, you could say a Gatorade bottle. That's how I first started playing like baseball and stuff, just with that. And my dad would pitch to me, and that's mainly how I got introduced into this whole baseball thing. And school.
It's a pretty good way to handle a slider, by the way. You can probably handle a slider because you're hitting a Gatorade top.
I was actually pretty good at it.
Yeah, well, you're still pretty good at it. I watched it in person the other day, so you're still pretty good at it. I interrupted you, then I'll let Clint jump in, but I interrupted you. You were going to finish with your thoughts on school. Go.
Yeah. School was actually a lot different than it is here. So you get there early in the morning, like a normal school, and then you only have one class for the rest of the day. Like you don't switch, and that was just me in elementary. I don't know how it was in high school. I never got there. And then lunch, I'm pretty sure you eat in your classroom. Like in my school, you ate in your classroom. Like they brought lunch and all that stuff. And over there I would take advantage of the lunch, but here I could actually make my homemade food and take it to school. So thank God.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I was also an excellent student, so.
Yeah, I've got a few questions for you, Fabio. First of all, thanks for coming on. We've got some common fabric, and I'm going to share that with you. You're a University of Miami commit.
Correct.
So was I. Football and baseball back in 1975.
Wow.
Miami was a baseball powerhouse then. They weren't very good at football.
Yeah.
But I do have a helmet with the big U, the U on the helmet. So that's still an area that I go visit. There's still people there that I know, and I'm still a fan of the Miami Hurricanes. You mentioned being a Yankee fan. I was not, my dad was. My dad loves the Yankees. I know everything about the Yankees forever and ever. And I like the fact that you talked about their winning tradition. That's kind of one of the things that attracted them to you. For you, what is attractive about winning? Why does that kind of make your heart beat?
I mean, winning is one thing I love since I was little. Like every little competition I would do, whether it's just running back and forth, just playing catch with my friend, like I would love to win. Like I would just be taught to win. And I mean, sometimes, we obviously lose, and I learn how to lose too, but it also helps me like learn how to win. Like just taking out one loss just helped me how to learn how to win.
That's really good perspective for a young man your age, because one of the lessons I would continually share with the teams that I managed for 17 years in the major leagues was I would tell them there's winning and there's learning. You only lose when you don't learn. That's the only time you truly lose. And I was really put a big smile on my heart when you talked about using a broomstick and a Gatorade cap. Because we were playing games back in the day very similar. Sticks, tape balls, sticks. We actually would use wiffle balls, golf balls. We didn't have a lot of access to baseballs. It's not like now where you can go to Dick's Sporting Goods, buy 3 dozen baseballs in the bucket it comes in and go out and flip. I mean, we actually had to borrow from other people their baseballs, which actually we were stealing them. We were kind of stealing baseballs.
Yeah.
Trying to put together a cachet of baseballs to go out and play. But when you think about that, you probably didn't as a kid, but look back now. Look at the genius in playing with a stick and a bottle cap. Harder to hit with a stick than a bat. The bottle cap's smaller than a ball, so that was probably a really early jump start for your hand-eye coordination, which I hear and I've watched little videos is really, really good. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, since I learned since I was little, like also it carried on to me right now, and I still practice to it. Like I can see a slider off the hand sometimes, change up, and change up's the hardest pitch to hit in baseball, in my opinion. It's the one I struggle with the most, but sometimes I'm able to see it off the hand, so it helps out a lot.
That is really good commentary. Hitting the changeup, 45 years in uniform, if somebody would ask me the hardest pitch to hit, I would tell them today it's a changeup. From being a coach, a manager, a hitting coach, the curveball probably second, but the changeup definitely number one. Now you talked about you love school, you made good grades in school. This is some more common fabric we have. I made pretty good grades in school. I made 1B in high school, and that was in driver's ed. So I want to ask you the toughest courses that you had while you're in high school, because I think you finished up with, a 3.7 GPA, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Toughest courses I had was definitely chemistry and geometry, because I'm a little bit iffy in math, but I was able to squeak through. And I also started taking college courses. It's called, it's like dual enrollment. Started taking that this year.
If it's not too personal of a question, how did your family get over here from Cuba? And then I'm going to share a story with one of my good friends, how he brought his family over from Cuba a bunch of years ago.
So my grandpa actually was the one that put the declaration so we could come over here. But funny story, when we got to the airport, we were there in time, and they said that the plane had already left. So we were freaking out. My dad was like, "Oh, you guys better figure it out because I'm leaving. Like, I need to get out of here." So they're like, "Oh, don't worry. We'll find out something for you." So we came in American Airlines first class. It planned out better. What can I say?
First class service, United States of America.
Exactly.
That's a little bit better than my buddy. I had a pitching coach. He was actually my bullpen coach in Pittsburgh. His name was Euclides Rojas. Euclides Rojas played for the Cuban national team back in the day when Fidel Castro was the president, but actually he was probably the general manager of the team as well, because he pulled a lot of strings. Euclides was the closer of the team. So there's pressure in closing a ball game anyway. Can you imagine the pressure that comes with being the closer for the Cuban national team? And it got to a point where Euclides, my buddy Yuki, he got his wife, his son, who was 2 or 3 years old at the time, and he got on with another dozen or so members, and they actually came over in one of those little freedom flotillas. He came over in the boat. Wow. Wife, baby, him. You don't know if you're going to land this thing. You don't know if you're going to get there, but they were all more passionate about leaving where they were and taking a chance on getting somewhere new and that opportunity. So I applaud your grandfather. I applaud your mom and dad. It looks like it's been a tremendous journey so far, and you've played a very important role in doing good things to give yourself options, to make decisions as you move forward. Can you talk about what's exciting you right now with baseball? There may be a draft for you 2024. There's already a college commit. I mean, how much fun are you having?
Oh, I'm having a lot of fun. Like, I go out there, I smile. I'm like, first thing I do when I get to the field, I'm like, I smile, stare at the field, put on my cleats, and do what I do best, play baseball.
That's awesome.
Know that I already made my parents proud by getting to college. That was the number one priority. Now, looking towards the draft.
Can I ask you a
Yeah.
question, Fabio?
Yes, of course.
Do you have academic aspirations, or what gets you excited about school? What's your favorite subject? What do you plan to study?
So, what I've actually been thinking about that lately, and I've been talking with my friend because he wants to do the same thing. So, I want to do business because I want to open up, let's say, it's like a baseball and a gym facility, like a huge one. So everybody can have the chance. So, and I want to also provide them with classes so they can learn, learn the way I learn.
You can call my husband because he talks about doing that himself a lot. So that sounds like a wonderful idea. Definitely stick with school. I'm the school person here. It'll be fun.
Yeah, my mom is the school person in my household too. She's the one that pushes me.
Good.
Well, that's why it'll be exciting when it gets down. You stay healthy, you continue to perform, and there'll be a draft in front of you, and then it'll be a real exciting decision in your house. What's next?
No, I think my parents would cry, and I would cry with them for sure.
Well, a long time ago, we went through that. My family, I was fortunate that I had some options. I could go to Harvard University on an academic scholarship. I had the commitment to the University of Miami, and I was drafted in the first round, the 9th pick in the nation by the Royals. And it was really a happy time because you work hard, you sacrifice a lot. Some people don't realize how many other people in your family sacrifice to help you to get to the position you're in. I know you do. Yeah. And they're going to be very happy for you. Yes, there'll probably be happy tears. That's all part of it. Emotions are wonderful. And I love some of the emotion I've seen you show on the field. I mean, the fact that you get to the field, you look at the field. I used to do the same thing, Fabio. I get to the ballpark, but my best time for me was I get down to the field 30, 35 minutes before the game started. I'd be the only one in the dugout, and I would just sit there by myself, watch them manicure the field, watch the fans come in, and sit there and thank God for the opportunity to do what I get to do and where I get to do it because I'm blessed beyond measure. So that was really good to hear from you.
Thank you. I also kind of reflect on Jose Fernandez. Sorry to interrupt. So you guys were talking about your friend, Euclides Rojas. That kind of reminded me of Jose Fernandez. I was actually reading his story like not too long ago, how he failed 3 times coming over here to the U.S. on a boat and still tried again to come here and sacrifice it all. And look where he was at. Big.
He was one of the. I was fortunate to spend some time with him at a baseball writers' dinner in New York City. And of course, he played in the National League, so we'd match up against him. And the days after his passing, they had reached out to me just because we had somewhat of a connection. And I shared with them that the game was going to miss a man like that, a young man like that, because the smile, the heartbeat, the passion. There were so many wonderful things about Jose that he brought to the field for the team, the teammate, and the community all the time. And that is my wish for our game of baseball, that we continue to help grow up young men like yourself that can bring that level of passion, that have endured things that maybe some others haven't endured and have been able to persevere through some things that others haven't persevered, that have that wonderful, genuine appreciation for the sport, for the opportunity, and all the wonderful things that can come with it. So, good name to bring up, Jose Fernandez. We should never forget him.
Yes.
This is episode 8, and you came over from Cuba in 8 when you were 8, and I just think that what you've been talking about personifies a lot what we do here. Living every moment, not taking it for granted, taking advantage of every opportunity here in the States. Your ability to compete on the field. I just have to ask you about your nickname here, Super Mang, which I think I say it right. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I just hope that you go out and light it up and make the game exciting and play it the right way. All the best on your journey here. We're so happy that you were able to spend some time with us today.
Thank you. So my nickname actually came from my coach, one of my trainers. Well, actually, my only trainer. So the first time I started training him was last year, say my freshman year, we made goals of like my 60, my throws from the outfield, my exit velo. And the first time we stepped into the weight room, he gave me these exercises, and then he told me the weight that I had to do. And I was like, but this is light. Like, I could do more than that. And then he's like, okay, Superman. And then he just, and then it just kept going, and he calls me that to this
I
day.
want to put a bow on your visit by talking about and gaining your perspective on a Latin family dinner, a Latin family gathering. I'm married to a Chilean woman, and now half my world, most of it has a strong Latin perspective to it. But this isn't about me. I'm not going to share my stories. I want you to tell me, bring me into your home for a Latin family meal. What are some of the characteristics, the personalities? What goes into a Latin family meal?
So a lot that goes into it is family, just family. And then you have my mom cooking, my dad making the vegetables, because it's pretty much the only thing he knows how to do. And my mom's favorite dish, I'm going to say it in Spanish because I don't know how to say it in English. It's garbanzo frito. Oh my God. It's best. You guys should try it. You guys should try it. And if you guys text me, I will bring you. I will bring you food so you can try it. It's great. But yeah, it's just family, and then we listen to music. A lot of Marc Anthony.
A lot of moms do.
Marc Anthony.
A lot of moms do.
Yeah, my mom loves Marc Anthony. And turns out my advisor, the company he works for is Marc Anthony's company, Magna Sports. So she tells my advisor all the time, when am I gonna meet Marc Anthony? Like, I need to give him a hug.
That's amazing.
She can cook for
And is it quiet,
Exactly.
like peaceful and quiet at these family dinners and meals?
Oh, come on.
Come on, Darren.
Yeah.
No, a lot of talking.
A lot of passion, a lot of fun,
talking.
man. I know. Trust me, I knew. You and I talked about that in
Yeah.
person. Hey, real quick, something to get back to business before we wrap. How did you enjoy the Junior National Showcase? How do you think you did?
I had a very fun experience, even though I think I could have performed well. Could have performed better, sorry. I don't think I performed my best, but I think you guys are still able to see my capability, and I'm still willing to show it in these next few tournaments that I have. Next year in the National, that's what I'm getting ready for. Didn't come on my best this showcase, but I promise I will show you guys what I'm capable of. And I also want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Perfect Game Cares and Miss Ford, because they gave me the opportunity. They paid for it. They flew me over here. So
Good
just
stuff.
big
That's
thank
why
you
they
to them.
started it. I mean, not everybody can do travel ball. That's why they started it. And that's doing the right thing. Thanks for hanging out with us, man. God bless you. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. It was great meeting you guys too.
Yeah, we're looking forward
Fabio,
to
I'm going to be down in Miami. I'm going to be down in Miami beginning of next week. I'm just going to reach out to an email and just see if there's anything going on. Are you going to be in town next week?
Oh, next week, yeah. I'm gonna be practicing. I'm getting ready.
Yeah, maybe I can get over early for lunch. I don't know if I can make dinner. I got to watch the Rockies play the Marlins, but we'll figure something out. I'm going to reach out to you, though. I'm serious.
You let me know. I'll tell my mom to cook that for
we
you.
can't wrap this yet. I'll put
reach
Clint
out.
on the spot here, Fabio. You deliver the goods in the Tupperware. He's big time. He hosts you at the game. I mean, that's all well and good. Like, he just stopped by. Like, how about Mr. Big Time Executive Rockies guy? He can bring you to the game.
I may or may not have access to a suite for the Marlins game on Tuesday night, Fabio. I will be in contact with you this weekend.
There we go.
Oh,
Take pictures. That's all I'm asking. I love the world of NIL that we don't have to be careful about this
There
stuff
you go.
anymore. We can actually invite kids to go to events and stuff like that. See how that works? Now, I guess you do have to bring the food just a little bit,
Yeah. Oh, I'm
And
definitely.
if he doesn't have the full
Definitely.
access, there's still plenty of good seats available at that Marlins game. So
No, I'm willing to sit anywhere as long as
All
I
right,
watch the
man.
game.
Peace. Take
I'm
care.
completely fine with it.
Gosh, love talking to Peralta, Fabio Peralta. I'm excited, Clint, to see if he makes it to that game, whether he does or doesn't. I think real quickly, and I know we have to get to the high hurdle. I just love when you start a charity, and I was around when Perfect Game started, the Perfect Game Cares Foundation, and you get an organic thank you to the charity, which none of us knew that was coming. I thought that if you're going to do a charity, you better have those happen quite a bit, and they better happen organically, and that's exactly what happened. Clint, I thought that was pretty cool.
It gives one of those moments that I call them God winks, that it just reaffirmation. You're doing the right thing. You're touching people. You're impacting lives. You're influencing people in a positive way. Jennifer Ford spends endless hours in the Perfect Game Cares program. We've got a bunch of events upcoming this summer. It's continuing to push forward Jerry Ford's vision in so many different ways. And when we get down to Tampa and we have the two events there, and then we take it out to the All-American, and we have the events out in Phoenix this year. It's so refreshing to see the lives that you can touch, the smiles you can put on faces. And I love what Jerry said one time at one of the events. He said, we're not looking so much to create baseball players. We really want to engage and hopefully impact and influence baseball fans, to get the game back to them, to let them hold it, romance with it, dance with it, and see where they can take it as they grow up and become, teenagers, young adults, and have their own families.
Yeah, and the game evolves. The evolution of the game changes. I ran into some former major leaguers at this recent showcase, and it reminded me to let the game grow, not to have, my opinion always on what I think it should be. Kerry Wood was one of them. His son was at the event, and he talked specifically about that, about the game's changed. I'm not for everything, but I love where it's going because it's not my game anymore. I'm done. I'm not allowed to anymore have a hand in the game. And Matt Holliday, who we've had on this podcast, was there as a dad as well. So the high hurdle for episode 8 is enthusiasm. And you guys both have contributed a bunch of where you'd like to take this. But, the intense and eager enjoyment, interest, or approval. Clint, high hurdle, enthusiasm. John, I know, and Susan, you guys have thoughts on that. But Clint, I'll let you take the floor first. The concept of enthusiasm.
Well, for me, there's a lot of great quotes you can grab. You want to Google up enthusiasm. But I take it back a few more steps. And when I was a hitting coach, I would talk to hitters about getting in the box and getting comfortable in the box and having some energy in the box and using that enthusiasm. Own your stance. Own that box. And I would say, what makes, in your mind, why does a dog, or what does a dog wag his tail with? They'd look at me kind of funny. They go, what does that have to do with hitting? I said, well, just slow down. What makes a dog, what wags a dog's tail? Well, it could be this, a lot of things. I said, no, you know what wags his tail? His heart. His heart wags his tail. When dogs wag their tail, they're happy. They're enthusiastic. They're engaged. They've got energy. I've got 2 dogs here, and they wag their tails a lot. But when that tail goes down, I know exactly what's going on, and we know we have an issue. And it's not 10-200 in the backyard. There's something going on inside of them. So the enthusiasm piece to me has always been, for baseball, find a way to play the game like you're 6 years old in the backyard and it was wiffle ball back then. The elite do it. I believe Fabio probably does it right now. I know if I've had players throughout my managerial career, coaching career, that is just a different kind of player. 3 decks, 50,000 people, it really didn't matter. They were 6. They were in the backyard. They're just playing ball. So the enthusiasm anyone can bring to ball, to life, to marriage, to raising kids, to their work. We need people to come alive. We need people to come alive in our world. We don't need people to check boxes, and I think enthusiasm is a big motivator for all that.
I think John was inspired to talk about or suggest enthusiasm. We were at the Northwestern graduation last weekend for my daughter, and we had Mike Greenberg as our speaker, and he threw out a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote that nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. And I think that hits home. John, we were walking, and he said, what enthusiasm story do you have? And I was like, I don't think I have one. But when I'm a thrill seeker, I love adventure, and I don't know if that's the same as enthusiasm, but John reminded me when I finished grad school, I was looking for a job, and I was an engineer, and I had all these job offers, and they all sounded so boring. And I flew to Washington, D.C., and I met with my still current boss. This was many decades ago. And he said, I can't tell you anything about what you're going to work on, but I personally guarantee you that it'll be the most fascinating job you'll ever have in your life. And I was like, okay. I just took the job because I felt like you have to have enthusiasm if you're going to do a great job and make a difference. Like if you take a job that sounds boring before you even start it, you know, you're doomed. And I try to live my life that way all the time.
You notice I have my Triple Lindy shirt on because it's Friday and nothing says enthusiasm like Rodney Dangerfield and the Triple Lindy.
Oh my God.
But I will try to explain enthusiasm through a story. My first story is about myself. I worked for the Raiders, the Los Angeles Raiders, working for free. I was bartending at night. I had no money. I got a chance to work with Mike Madden, John Madden's son. I'd been there for like 2 months, never saw Al Davis once. One day we're up in the scouting room we weren't supposed to be in, watching film, and next thing you know, the door opens, and here comes Al in white, all in white, slick back hair, and I jumped up. It was like that moment. I was 22 years old. I was like, this is my moment. I'm going to meet Al Davis, the architect, the maverick, prod and pause, commitment to excellence. I jump up. I bring my hand over. He reaches his hand out. Mr. Davis, it's a pleasure to meet you, and he just dead fished me. And I looked down at my hand, and I was like, holy shit. And he goes, you're going to have to leave. And I was like, no problem. I can leave. No problem. And I ran out. And Mike used to laugh at me and say he dissed you so badly, but you were so happy and so enthusiastic about it. It didn't bother you one bit. My other story is Darren Sutton. We were in Pittsburgh, middle of the season, long grind back in the day, 2002-03. Darren's in the tape room, and the tape guys – they didn't realize who Darren was, and they're asking Darren about certain elements. And Darren's like, yep, that's the replay move. Yep, that's the back end. Yep. And Darren's in there listening to the sound. And I come back in, Darren leaves, and the guys go, yeah, your director was in here. And I'm like, what? Yeah, he was showing us all the elements. And I'm like, what? Ernie and Bob, they still working. What are you talking about? I go, that's not the director. That's our play-by-play guy. It's Darren Sutton. So that was the enthusiasm that Darren brought every day to our broadcast.
Oh, man, that was fun. All those stories are good. I think enthusiasm keeps us employed. I really do. I think of people that have lost jobs, and I certainly have. And I think enthusiasm and optimism keep us employed. I really do. And then they make life more worth living. Doesn't mean you don't hurt. Doesn't mean you don't struggle. Doesn't mean you don't fail. But I think enthusiasm, is, gosh, Susan, your stories, it's spot on, right? I mean, I'm sure you've had lots of tough times at that job too, and lots of frustrating times, and thought I might need to call it, but it's that enthusiasm that keeps you coming back, and the promise that they made, which they've kept true on. It's interesting too, that just as a quick aside, and as brief as I can do this, at Perfect Games Junior National Showcase, at the end of the dugout at East Cobb was what should not be an office. It was an equipment room, but I made it an office. Table, I brought it in, a chair, there was power. And so I was at the end of the dugout, and where you should have bases and dirt and stuff. And it was a good-sized room, and it was below the heat index outside. But there, respectfully, I was only with the players. I was not in the bleachers or behind where the scouts are. I was not with the parents. I was only with the players. And so they're only sophomores going to their junior year. They're babies, right? But it was so nice to, and there's a lot of good parents. Once you get to this age, parents start to figure out that they can mess things up too. They learn. There's a lot of struggling parents out there that aren't good sports parents, but when your kid's a top 200 kid in the country, you kind of realize this is a job interview they're at. But the innocence and the enthusiasm of the kids playing baseball is what I heard for hours every day. And it was so cool to be around it, to take all the other baloney out of it, the rankings, how'd you perform, what was your time? They just love baseball. They love playing baseball. And so the game's in good hands. The game's in very good hands. And the other thing that I had a chance to talk with a guy, an Ole Miss commit, he's a Perfect Game Select Festival guy. He's number 5 outfield in the United States, Slade Caldwell. And he's going to crank up a going for 2 for me, because Slade Caldwell, and Clint knows this, John and Susan, in a showcase game at the end of a national showcase, when they play games, they're simulated games. It's for the pitchers. But there are no walks, because the hitters don't pay to be in the showcase to walk. It just shifts to fastballs. You have fastballs the rest of the way. So what happens when you walk is they put a runner out there. Okay, give me a runner. Give me a runner for him. He's going to get to hit. And Slade Caldwell, who's going to be a perfect game All-American, stood on the other side of his dugout, on the other side across with the visiting team, so he could run every single time. He's already a top 5 player in the country. He wanted to run. He wanted to run. He wanted to run. Well, then he got his at-bat. Then he wanted to run, run, run. Enthusiasm. He wanted to steal bases. He wanted to have that energy. Nice. And I know going for 2, conceptually for me, I like to talk about stolen bases because I do agree that there are dumb stolen bases, way more dumb stolen bases out there. And the game has pulled down that number, trying to eliminate, what's that cutoff, Clint? About 76% success rate. If you get above that, then you're helping your team. If you're below that, you're just giving outs away. But I loved the enthusiasm. I loved Slade Caldwell because he stole probably 40 bases in 2-3 games because he was running for everyone that walked when he didn't have to be. He stood over in the heat. So anyway, that's my going for 2. Base stealing, energy, enthusiasm.
Beautiful. Tie it up.
That's it. I'm just laying it down right there.
When you get to the point where you're really not afraid to be laughed at, you're in a good place. You're in a good place. Yeah. I mean, because there was many times, me growing up as a player, as a kid, as a high school athlete, I didn't want to embarrass myself. And you find out that it's kind of like playing to not lose rather than playing to win. In life, one of the things I share with these kids, it's graduation time, try things. Don't be afraid to fail or mess up. It gets a little messy because you're going to learn it's still a win-win situation. You may even love it. You may even like it a lot. If you don't, you're going to learn something from it. But if you sit down and do nothing, nothing's going to happen. I can guarantee you that. So good for Slade Caldwell. Good for enthusiasm. I've always been, I think, guilty at times of enthusiasm. I mean, I'm a positive guy because I believe it creates a wake. It creates a wake throughout our day. And I believe negative people create a wake as well throughout their day. And I know what it does to me when I get in a room full of, John Gordon, my friend John Gordon calls them energy vampires. Are people happier when you walk in the room? Or are they happier when you walk out of the room? So I try and keep that in my pocket anytime I'm going into a room. But I love the concept. I love the stories. Darren, appreciate the stories. Appreciate the word enthusiasm. The stolen base thing, yeah, let's scratch this a little bit. Because I've been in the minor leagues now. I've made 4 rounds, 4 weeks in minor league baseball, and watching A-ball for the first time in 26 years. Wow. It's like having a young puppy. 1 minute they're licking you in the face, the next minute they're peeing over in the corner. These young players are capable of everything and anything. And it's such a blast. It's so refreshing because it's usually full tilt when they're doing it. But the clock is really working in a couple fantastic ways for me, the pitch clock. Number one, all these games are getting close to half an hour knocked off their time.
Yay.
And it's not, you don't feel like you're in the express lane at the grocery market. You don't feel like you're in HOV lane. You don't feel like you're rushed at all.
Good.
14 seconds, nobody on base. 18 seconds with a runner on base. There's a couple warnings you'll see. Occasionally an automatic ball called on a hitter that steps out or a strike or whatever. But the other thing is now people are getting smarter with the clock. And they're leveraging the combination of the throwovers to first and the clock to steal more bases. It's flat out going on. It's real. I've seen it with my own eyes. Pitchers are also holding the ball longer because they know how many seconds they got. And think about it. One of the things we've always taught within the history of the game is if you want to freeze a runner at first base, the best base stealers, the one thing all of them will tell you first and foremost, what hinders the stolen base? A pitcher that can just hold the ball. Yeah. Because they're looking for rhythms, they're looking for timings, they're looking for glove tells on where you hold it when you go home, where you hold it when you throw over. But that cat that can set in the same spot all the time and hold and not lose his vision for what he's trying to do, his pitch ability, it really complicates it. So it's twofold. If a pitcher throws over once and a hitter, he's got one more opportunity. So once he throws over twice, he's done. He can't throw over anymore, and he's got the shot clock to contend to, or the pitch clock to contend to. So it's turned into a wonderful dynamic. The pitchers are using it to leverage off the mound to hold the ball, stop the runners, and the runners are gaining some advantages after a throw over or going early. It just made the game more energetic, more athletic, and a lot more fun to watch.
Well said, Clint. Well said.
Sounds exciting.
Love
when
it.
You said laugh at yourself. I thought of the video of you. I think it was Oakland. Was it Grand Funk Radio? And you were on. That's enthusiasm, man. And I'm sure you got laughed at, but man, talk about. I mean, how great when you're a player, you come out of that clubhouse and you turn, you see Clint Hurdle getting down, getting funky. How great is that, man? That's got to make you smile and want you to go out on the field, right?
Just like a dog wagging his tail. I mean, I love the game. And I loved every day I was in the game, and I loved every day I was in uniform. There were some hard days. Don't get me wrong. There were some days that weren't fun. But even in those days, it beat anything else I could have been doing. Nothing else was even close. So thankful and grateful, yes. Moving on, still with my finger on the pulse of the game with perfect game. You know, like we said, we got things coming up. Darren and I will have a blast in St. Petersburg, Tampa, for the national showcase. What an event that always is. And for me, it was last year was the first time I got to watch it in its entirety. I showed up for the baseball clinic. I showed up for the school visit the next day. Got to speak to parents. Got to watch kids play. And, and then you roam the halls and you run into CeCe Sabathia. You run into Matt Holliday. You run into Mark McGuire. You run into Andrew Jones. Some people that I spent some time with as well. So a lot of good in front of us this summer.
Yeah, it is. And one player that was at last summer's national showcase was Brandon Barriera. He actually pitched himself into the All-American Classic. We've known him for years. I mean, I knew his family, know his family well through the pandemic, kept in touch, and he worked really hard to evolve. New York roots, Brooklyn, New York roots. His family still lives there now down in Florida. Puerto Rican roots, worked very hard, his mom and dad, to put food on the table and get him to where he's at. And he kind of made news, publications outside of like Perfect Game and places that cover amateur baseball like ESPN. And Kyle McDaniel, a great writer, talked about his decision to sit down for his last handful of high school starts at American Heritage just to protect. I mean, he's worked so hard to get to this point. And so he made that decision. And that's kind of our 360, something to bat around as we wrap things. Certainly not to judge a kid that was at all, like even open the door for that to happen, who is just outside of being a minor, but it's been discussed. And I think it's a great discussion to have. I think it's an individual discussion that each person has with their family, but I like that it's being discussed.
Darren, what are your thoughts about it? Why don't you start us off?
Well, I know the kid. The one thing I read in articles was all accurate. There was nothing disparaging. I know the journey. I know how hard it was for him to get to that point. I know that he sat on a travel team bench for 3 years and didn't play much at all. He was throwing it to the backstop. It was borderline the yips. All that he went through. Yet his parents kind of taught him, there's a no excuses attitude in life. And he kept playing baseball. He didn't quit baseball. And he's worked himself to here. And again, he really crushed it during the pandemic. So long story short, I support his decision. I support his family's decision. It wasn't just his decision, his family's decision. Sergio and Melissa, his parents, he stayed with his team, made it clear, I'm not like running off to some, penthouse in Miami to go hang alone and be cool with my new agent. I'm staying with my team. And, but he's just, managing his health as he gets ready for the draft. So I think to each their own. That's kind of my thought.
Go ahead, John, Susan.
Well, I would never fault the kid, like you said, the parents, they have to make decisions. But at some point, I think kids need to learn how to compete and how to get out of situations. And I think it's the system. We just talked about base stealing. It's not been rewarded. Raja Deva talks about that in the article. It's like, general managers, they're not paying for base stealing. Hopefully arbitration, if they're going to incentivize it, much like the NFL, they incentivize offense. They've taken away a lot of the rules, the 5-yard contact rule. But I guess my point is that, where do the kids learn how to compete? It seems like the analytics drive everything instead of just the mental, ability to get out there and compete. And I just want to say on a lower level is that for a person like me who never played, beyond high school ball, really, that was the great memory for me, being able to compete as a team with all the players. We had really good players, all state players that went on and played college football. They made us, we went to state ourselves, but it's like there's some part that's starting to trickle down now to the lower levels where you've got Little League that used to be everybody played Little League, even if they weren't going to play in high school but now these parents are deciding to send kids to play on travel balls. Now you have multiple travel teams, and nobody's to sport Little League. And I think this community at hold, and I just am concerned. It's a concerning trend for me.
Yeah, and John and I saw that with our kids. There were athletes that were talented, and they would choose not to play with their school team and opt for travel ball, and it just created a sad dynamic. These were superstars in high school, and they never played for their own high school team because they were distracted with travel ball. And I don't know good or bad or right or wrong, but it just changes the dynamic in a way that was somewhat sad.
Yeah, taking away a memory too.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows where they're going to go, but the memories of playing for your high school team could be, the only competition you may have. And
I don't know.
There's so many different perspectives on here. First and foremost, I think it's up to the individual. It truly is up to the individual, because I haven't walked in Brandon's shoes. Darren knows the story on many deeper levels than layers than I do, but I have spent time around Brandon. We had Brandon at the showcase. I had him in the All-American class. He was on our team. I had him for the warm-up game the night before. I actually was able to engage in him, and I gave him a couple responsibilities. It just worked out that way. Getting the pitchers ready. The relievers group stretch. I mean, that was the night we used 10 or 11 pitchers to throw a no-hitter in San Diego. And, Lesko was a part of that, who the pitcher they talk about initially, Dylan in the article, because he underwent Tommy John surgery, and there's still a chance that he's going to be picked in the first round. The two conflicting, the confrontational points. Number one, we've created this. And that's the one thing that I'll never run away from. It's kind of like in college when the players choose not to play in the ball game. Why do they choose not to play in the ball game?
Right.
Fear of injury.
Yep.
Plain and simple, it's fear of injury. It's possibly not just throwing shade on a draft pick or choice or money, but putting yourself in a much hamstrung situation if you get really hurt. That, I think you got to be the person walking through that to feel that. We've created that beast by the amount of money that's out there, and these guys are getting to get. Same thing in the high school draft now. I understand completely. Competition, getting back to a program, playing on a team. You hear the word team, and some of these kids play on 16 teams during the summer. That's not really a team. That's individualized sport where you just kind of hanging out together. You're herded together. But Brandon has been on teams. He has competed in showcase. He's competed a lot along the way. And the fact of the matter is, him, unlike most, he was not very good at one time. He was struggling, and Darren pointed that out. So for him to be able to work through all that, get himself to this point, the truth of the matter is, yeah, there may be a scout or two that says, when are they ever going to learn to compete? That scout, will he tell his general manager that when it comes when he's asked that, well, we got to have the best player available to draft? What's that scout going to say then? Because if you miss on a guy, and trust me, every year people miss on people. You watch who's drafted 1 through 10, then you watch who's drafted 20 through 80, figure out where they all land in 3 years. What's this kid bring to the table? This kid has worked very hard. This kid has put himself in a position to have some success and possibly a first-round draft choice. For me, with all the sequence of events, again, I applaud the courage it takes to make that decision. And I do think it's not for everybody. There are some kids that need to play and compete, because not everybody's going first round. I am a fan of baseball IQ, and I've been around Brandon enough to know he's got some baseball IQ. He's been around a ball field all his life. So if our scouting director came to me and he's available at 10, it would be a tough call at 10. But would I have the conversation with him about Brandon? Brandon's name would get brought up, and I would not say, well, he skipped the last 2 events. And he did. No, that would never be a topic of discussion for me, because I want to talk about the work he's done and what we've seen. So it's a hot topic out there right now. Obviously, you wish good for the kid. That's all. At the end of the day, And pitching is the biggest hornet's nest to walk your way through in a major league draft. I mean, that article speaks to it. Kyler McDaniel nailed it. How many number 1 picks? How many top 10 picks? How many picks in the first, second round? Look how it's ended up 4 or 5 years later. It's crazy. So good luck to all of them. We're going to get to see some more of them. We're going to get to see a whole bunch of them. But I just love the fact that I know Brandon now. I followed him, and I wish for nothing but good things for him.
So I'll wrap it with this. I'll wrap it with this. And here's what I think is the best part about it. We're talking about this. There are more choices for athletes than there were a generation ago. It's not for everyone. You know, playing only high school baseball is the best choice for some. Mixing travel ball with high school baseball is the best choice. The concept of playing with the guys that you ask girls out on dates with and you get a C on a final because you pulled it all-nighter, the concept of playing together is irreplaceable, 100% irreplaceable. But it's being talked about. There are writers now that are assigned for major places like ESPN to talk about amateur and high school baseball. And the fact that 10 years ago, no one would have even talked about this. It's great. I think it's great. I think it's great for the kid. I think it's great for the amateur athlete. I think it allows future players to look at how it went for him, what he thought, and make their own decision. I just think it's cool. It's part of the evolution of the game, and we're all talking about it, have different opinions about it, which I think there is no wrong opinion.
One size doesn't fit all, right? One size doesn't.
No, and I think I think it's great that it's an article that's brought. Like, it's been talked about on sports talk radio. You think sports talk radio? They're all told don't touch anything but football. Don't touch it unless you're doing the Bucks in their city when they win it all last year. Like only football.
Right.
And I've heard high school baseball discussed. Yeah. Yay. That's a good thing. I mean, that means, and we're doing this. Us four numbskulls are doing this every 2 weeks. So I think that's a good thing. I think it's worth celebrating. I really do.
Before we leave, I know in our pre-pro meeting, Clint, you had some words to say about Memorial Day. This is our, episode. I know Memorial Day was, 2 weeks ago, but you had some words to say about Memorial Day that.
Yeah, I just wanted to get it out there because the last couple of years I haven't had the opportunity I had in Major League Baseball to honor Memorial Day and to thank men, women, families that have sacrificed not just time, but health, life. It's very, very touching Memorial Day for so many and for all the right reasons, and to be thankful and grateful and appreciate, those that have come before, those have gone before us. For some of us, I never served. And when I tell people, thank you for your service, I mean it. And there's so many young men, young women going out today, being deployed, still going out and serving in such a meaningful manner that it needs to be appreciated. It needs to be brought up. And, there was a couple names we've popped in there today. When you think about Ted Williams at number 8, Yogi Berra, both of them spent time, lengthy time, periods of service in, honoring our country, defending our country. I think Yogi was a gunner mate. I think that's what you sent us, John, a gunner mate in the Normandy landings on D-Day.
Yep.
I mean, Ted Williams, did he go twice or was it just one time extended? I mean,
two tours. He was in the Korean War, too. I think he missed, 4 years? Yep.
I mean, just think about that.
Yeah.
Think about, would that ever happen today? I don't know. But there's so many wonderful, wonderful stories that still come, generational stories. Grandpas, dads, daughters, moms that are serving, have served. And I just want to say thank you.
And just, I know we're kind of over time, but the generation that number is getting smaller and smaller. We just lost someone in our neighborhood, 97 years old, that was in Italy during World War II. And the one thing that, having met a few of these veterans, is how wonderful they were. Just like Fabio, how much the kid just appreciates. He was talking about lunch at school. It's like, oh my God. I mean, we forget these people these veterans that were over there and saw the atrocities. They came back and they lived every day like it's their last. And the impression they left on people just in our neighborhood. They were going to his funeral and they were all dressed up and they were talking how much of a wonderful and gracious man he was.
What do you hear when you tell somebody, thank you for your service? I mean, what I hear most of the time back is, it was an honor. It was my honor. I mean, I've heard that at Walter Reed Hospital when people have lost limbs. we'd go in there on baseball tours and make trips and try and just spend some time with them. And I'm looking at somebody that's lost an arm or lost a leg or both, and I say, thank you for your service. And I look them in the eye, and they're looking back at me, and they go, no, thank you. It's an honor to serve our country. I'd do it again. I mean, special. Darren, why don't you take us home?
I will be glad to do that. My college catcher, my college third baseman, told their dad in high school, Tallahassee, Alabama, that they wanted to sign up for the reserves when they were in high school, and they were ROTC and in the reserves, and we said goodbye to them for a year. It's a different time, a different generation, but these two twin brothers, my catcher and third baseman in college, went to Iraq for a year, and it opened all of our eyes because they were reservists when they went into college. It helped pay for their college, and a different time. That was in the early 90s. But certainly, and they're here. We're not memorializing them. They both came home. But at a college age, it opened my eyes a lot to have two teammates go to Iraq and do that over there. Subscribe, like, make sure you stay subscribed. Find us every couple of weeks, roughly. And we love that you pay attention to this podcast. We don't want to call it your dad's or your mom's podcast, but we hope everyone's listening. We hope the young athletes, and thank you, Fabio, for coming on. Fabio Peralta, outstanding. Kind of an old soul. He kind of fits in with this group, even though he's just a junior in high school. 13 pieces of bubble gum. Chew it up, blow a big bubble with enthusiasm. We'll see you soon.